Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, Kezia Dugdale, and the First Minister of Wales, Corbyn Jones.
Leader of Welsh Labour. It's great to be sharing a stage. Great to be sharing a stage with my colleagues from across the rest of the UK, because our message tomorrow is lower than in England, Scotland and in Northern Ireland. For the first time in decades that's happened in Wales. But I know that when I talk to businesses that want to come to Wales, that are already in Wales, they all say the same thing to me. We need to have access to the European market. If you can't guarantee that for us, then we won't come. We'll leave. And that's the great risk to Welsh jobs and British jobs that Brexit represents. And I also know that we in Wales get £245 million a year as a result of our EU membership. Now, Boris Johnson and Michael Gove and the others have said we'll make up every penny of that. Now, last week I said they had no more power to promise that than my children's pet cat. The cat's angry. It wants an agent now. But the reality is that they can't promise anything, and for the people of Wales, this is a lose-lose situation. But we know that there are people out there who are angry. We know that there are people there who have jobs on low wages, 0 hours contracts, casual jobs, sometimes having to take 2 jobs to make ends meet, no permanent contracts, no trade union representation. But the establishment are saying to them, you're in that position because of immigration. They're not. They're in that position because of the policies of right-wing politicians. And as a party, we have to say to those people, yes, we understand your pain. But we know that the solution is a secure job, a permanent contract, a pension at the end of it, trade union recognition, trade union support, and that's what we should be fighting for, not trying to blame others for the situation caused by a Tory government. But ultimately, friends, this is about 2 competing visions of what Britain should look like. The one vision says that we should scuttle away, become a slightly sour, slightly paranoid country, peering at the world from above a wall, a country wanting to live in the past, worrying the carcass of an old song, to quote R.S. Thomas, a Welsh poet. A country that, where faced with security concerns across Europe, ran away. Is that what we want? Is that what we want other countries to see us as? That where the tough got going, Britain ran away. There's an alternative vision here, friends. And that is a bright country, an outward-looking country, a country that works with friends and allies to promote freedom, democracy, justice, tolerance. That's the country I want to see. That's the country we've been up until now. And I fear that we've lost that in the last few weeks. Well, I can say this to you now. I want to see that country of tolerance. I want my country back, because that's the country we should be. The politics of hope defeating the politics of fear. The politics of truth defeating all those untruths we've heard for the last few weeks. And above all else, the politics that says that what we want to see is a fair, just, prosperous Britain working with its partners across the European Union. That's the goal for us on Thursday. Let's go out there and make sure that Britain votes to remain and we start to build our future with confidence. Thanks very much. And with that, it now gives me very great pleasure to introduce the Leader of Scottish Labour, Kezia Dugdale.
Thank you, Corbyn. I feel I occupy a bit of a unique position on this platform today, and it's not the obvious one that you're thinking of. It's that I've been here before. The country are still to make up their minds. And many of them won't finally make up their mind until they walk into a polling station tomorrow. What they ultimately decide will make the difference in this referendum. So my message to them is this: a Leave vote just isn't worth the risk. Now, the vast majority of experts and the overwhelming body of evidence confirms that the risks of leaving the EU outweigh any perceived benefits. Risks to current jobs, to future jobs, to our economy, risks to our rights at work. And these are risks that we don't have to take. In the independence referendum, they told us that we were scaremongering. They told us that we wanted to frighten people. It was the standard response whenever the other side was presented with cold, hard facts. Yet we've been proven right. The warnings from the experts were correct. In fact, they downplayed the risks on oil, on currency, on our public finances. The Governor of the Bank of England, he was right. President Obama, he was right. The Institute of Fiscal Studies, they were right. David Beckham, he was right. Those experts were dismissed then, and the Leave campaign want to dismiss them now. You know, Nigel Farage can dismiss some of the experts some of the time, but he can't dismiss all of the experts all of the time. Now, I am proudly, passionately pro-European. I am proud of what we have built across Europe. Proud that our continent, whose history was written in conflict and chaos, is now defined by peace and by prosperity. Proud that nations on the shores of the Mediterranean, the Baltic and the Black Sea, whose citizens lived under totalitarian regimes and military dictators, now take for granted their human rights, free speech and democracy. It is one of the greatest achievements of our history as a nation, and it is one of the most remarkable achievements in human history. But you don't have to love Europe as I do to vote for it. You don't have to be happy about everything that the EU means. But you do have to know and understand that this is on a knife edge. Tomorrow is not the day to cast a protest vote. It's not a day to kick the Tories or lash out against immigration. It is far too important for that. When we vote tomorrow, we will be deciding what type of country we want to be. Do we share Nigel Farage's narrow, racist vision of a country closed in on itself? Or do we want to be a vibrant, tolerant nation? A nation that sees the benefits of cooperation, that works with our friends, our allies and our neighbours to tackle the big challenges that we face, from climate change to the refugee crisis. So there is a strong, positive case for a Remain vote tomorrow. The EU secures millions of jobs across the UK. It protects rights of workers, and it gives young people opportunities that were unimaginable to previous generations. Don't throw it all away tomorrow. Vote for the kind of positive, tolerant nation that we want to be. Vote to secure jobs and rights at work, and vote to Remain. Thank you. Britain, can I invite you to welcome the star of last night's TV debate, Sadiq Khan.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here with Jeremy. It's great to be here with Kezia. It's great to be here with Corbyn. And let's hear it for the man who's been leading our campaign, Alan Johnson. Friends, make no mistake, the Labour Party faces the fight of our lives between now and polls closing at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. We're all here today to make the positive, patriotic and Labour case for Britain remaining in the EU. As Labour leaders across the UK, we are totally united in our conviction that staying in Europe will be better for the people we represent. Better for jobs, better for rights, better for security and Labour values. And the stakes could not be higher. This decision will impact our lives, our jobs, our prosperity and our security for decades to come. If we as a country decide to quit, then we're out for good. There's no going back. British jobs and our future prosperity are on the ballot paper tomorrow. This is the fight of our lives. So today, I urge every Labour supporter, in the short time we have left, to spend every minute and every hour persuading your family, persuading your friends and your neighbours to vote for Britain to remain in the European Union. We go door to door, street to street and community to community. And let's remember, staying in the European Union is the way we can be most true to our British values and to our Labour values. Britain and Labour have a proud history of internationalism, always looking for new partnerships and new alliances. Turning our back on the European Union would only be the opposite of British values. It would go against our Labour values. Working with others gives us influence and allows us to shape our own future in the world, to ensure we are stronger, to ensure we are safer, to ensure we are better off. So tomorrow, let's make the positive and patriotic choice. Let's make the Labour choice. Let's vote for jobs. Let's vote for rights at work. Let's vote for greater opportunities for everyone. This is the fight of our lives. Let's win this. And now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the leader of our Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you. We will. Friends, thank you very, very much, and a huge welcome to here, King's Cross in London. Thank you, Corbyn, for coming along, and thank you for winning the elections in Wales. Thank you, Kezia, for coming and supporting us and for the fantastic campaign you are fighting to challenge austerity. Your election was a statement of the kind of society we want to live in, together, united together to achieve good things. Prejudice achieves nothing. We're just a few hundred metres away from St Pancras Station at the moment. That's the gateway to millions of people travelling to and from Europe every year. Eurostar symbolises a most incredible feat of engineering. 2 hours from here to Paris, 2 hours from here to Brussels, and trains now running to Marseille and going on to other parts of Europe. But it's more than just a train, it's more than just a journey, it's more than just a tunnel. It symbolises our wish to travel, our wish to welcome others, and our wish to explore other places and benefit from those that come to explore our society. Tomorrow, the vote is important. If we vote to leave, then I get the feeling that's a rejection of that spirit, of that cooperation, of that desire to share and that desire to learn. Throughout our history, the people of this country have looked outwards for ways to work with others, to improve lives of our fellow citizens in this country and around the world. It's this commitment to deliver real change for all which forged the Labour Party, our party. We do not believe in the status quo, we believe in change for the benefit of all. We believe that Britain will be better off in the European Union, not because we don't think Europe needs a lot of change and a lot of reform. I want to stay in Europe in order to change it and reform it. But I think it offers the best cross-border framework to defend living standards, rights and protections for our people. By voting to remain, we can protect jobs linked to Europe. Millions of jobs across this country dependent on exports and trade with Europe. We can defend workers' rights, which our Tory leaders and the leaders of the exit campaign think are unimportant and want to scrap the regulations that protect so much. We can safeguard our National Health Service from the threat of runaway Tory cuts and privatisation. So I urge Labour supporters all over the country to think very carefully about this. The vote is tomorrow. Do what's best for our people. In the globalised world in which we live, we face massive challenges. We face challenges from global corporations. We face challenges from environmental change. We have more power and influence if we pool sovereignty, pool ideas, work with other people to solve those issues. You cannot do it all on your own. Think of a very practical example. Pollution of our environment, pollution of our air, pollution of our seas. If we pump poisonous chemicals up into our atmosphere, they go somewhere. They go to Europe. If people in Europe pump poisonous chemicals into the air, they go somewhere. They come here. If we dump foul waste into the sea, it doesn't just pollute our beaches, it pollutes everybody's beaches. The sea is a common denominator for all of us. The environment does not respect national boundaries. Therefore, we have to work together with others to ensure we keep our clean beaches, ensure we have our clean air, and ensure that our environment doesn't get worse. You only do that by working together across the frontier. Then think about workers' rights. If we don't have basic standards in common, basic standards of minimum wage, basic standards of holidays, basic standards of maternity and paternity rights, basic standards of the right to be heard, the right to be represented, then what happens? Unscrupulous employers and whole countries can engage in a race to the bottom. That race to the bottom means the weakest get hit the hardest, the most powerful get the greatest wealth out of it, and at the end of the day, we all suffer. Therefore, I think we have to think very seriously about how we best protect and improve working conditions. Next year, Britain has the presidency of the European Union. This great privilege only comes around every 12 or 13 years. That means we could lead in Europe to push our agenda for change in Europe. Do any of you here think we'd be better off dealing with global tax avoidance if we left the European Union, or if we stayed within it to demand everybody deals with tax avoidance across this whole continent? Our own HMRC estimates there is a £34 billion tax gap. Little infuriates people more than the class of the super rich, the class of the very big businesses, believing that paying tax is optional, only for the little people. Well, I've got news for them. We are determined to chase down the tax evaders and the tax avoiders. That is an important priority. There are proposals now in Europe for country-by-country reporting. I know it sounds a bit obscure. What it means is that companies pay their taxes in the countries in which they make their profits. Our MEPs, our Labour members of the European Parliament, have backed this proposal at every conceivable opportunity and continue to campaign for it. The Conservative MEPs, under the tutelage and direction of our Prime Minister, have voted against it time and time again. We in Britain have a particular obligation to tackle tax havens, since so many of them are British overseas territories or Crown dependencies. So we should support measures drawn up for an EU-wide blacklist of tax havens, to sanction them and support measures to eradicate them. Everybody should pay their fair share of tax, that we might all enjoy the health and education and all the other services that they're there to pay for. But we would go further on banking regulation. The financial transaction tax, colloquially known by a famous person from Nottingham, the Robin Hood tax. Very important. There are 10 countries in Europe that are working together to secure a financial transaction tax across the European Union. This is a small tax on specific financial transactions to help prevent the sort of banking crash we saw in 2008 that led to a much wider recession. A very sensible proposal I'm sure everybody in this building would agree with. Sadly, the British government didn't agree with it. What was their answer? To rush across to Brussels with an army of lawyers on the Eurostar to threaten the European Union with legal action if they dared to promote a transaction tax. I tell you this, a Labour government wouldn't do that. A Labour government would want a financial transaction tax. That is what we're saying. We have banners around defending workers' rights. There's a little-known directive called the Posting of Workers Directive. Alan and I discussed this yesterday, and it's absolutely nothing to do with the post office or postal workers. It's a directive that enables companies that win contracts in another part of Europe to take their workers to work in other countries. In other words, they post the workers abroad temporarily rather than going through a new recruitment process. It all sounds quite obscure. However, some legal judgments have opened up loopholes in this, meaning that those companies that bring a workforce in wholesale undermine the going rate in that country by paying the lower going rate in the country that the workers have come from. This has meant workers, in some cases, not even being paid the minimum wage in the country they're working in, because it's above the rate of their home nation. This loophole sounds small, but can actually lead to grotesque levels of exploitation of migrant workers, awful tensions in the place that they've been brought into, undermining of collective bargaining and normal employment practices, and actually drive people apart rather than bring them together. There is a proposal on the table to end this scandal. We support that proposal. We have demanded that the British government and all other European governments support that proposal. Don't blame the migrant worker for being exploited. Blame the company that's exploiting them for what they're doing. And then there's the other great scandal of 0 hours contracts. These appalling contracts ought to be outlawed in Britain. Indeed, in many parts of Europe, 18 members of the EU have already outlawed them. I want to go further. I want to see them outlawed across the whole of this continent. The insecurity of working on a 0 hours contract, not knowing what your income's going to be, not knowing how you're going to pay your rent, not knowing how you will claim benefits for that week but not another week because you happen to get some work that week. And so I want us in the British presidency to be promoting good quality, minimum standards all across this continent to prevent that kind of exploitation as well. We cannot stop undercutting and give people across Europe the job security they need unless we stay in to argue for that case during the British presidency. That's what the Labour Party wants to do. Germany has now set its own minimum wage, and so the possibility is there to get a minimum wage for everyone across the continent. Surely that would be a massive step forward. Tomorrow, we face a choice. I've set out only some of the many issues in which there is a Labour vision on Remain. We believe Remain will help us to be able to reform the European Union and will be right for people in this country, in defending jobs, in defending the workers' rights that we've gained, in defending the environmental protection measures that we've achieved, and the fundamental equality and human rights issues that we've achieved in this country. We can make this country and the world a better place if we work with other people. So, I urge you tomorrow to vote to Remain. I urge you to get out on the streets and have that discussion with people, a serious discussion about the kind of world and kind of continent they want to live in. But I want to do a bit more. I want people to come together over the coming months to look at other things we can achieve across Europe, other people across Europe we can work with. I've had a whole string of messages from trade unions, socialist parties and many others across Europe urging me to put the case for remaining, to work with them to defeat the far right, the xenophobes, but above all to bring about a growing economic prosperity for everyone across Europe. And in doing that, we'll set out the kind of agenda that a Labour government in Britain would achieve in this country and help to influence across the whole continent. Things can, and with your help, they will change. Thank you very much.